welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make some homemade cinnamon rolls. The first thing we're going to do is add 2 cups of warm milk, half a cup of melted butter, 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast, and half a cup of sugar in this bowl. So the milk, you should be able to put your finger in there and it should feel like nothing. It should be about your body temperature, but it's okay if it is a little bit warmer. Next, you're going to add your sugar. The sugar should be able to dissolve in the warm milk. Then you're going to go ahead and put in your butter. And mix that all together. Once those are slightly incorporated, you're going to add your yeast right on top. I would suggest pouring the yeast all across the top so that it doesn't clump up in one area. Next up, you're going to mix the yeast a little bit just to make sure that all the yeast particles are nice and hydrated. Now you just want to let that rise for about 10 minutes in a warm place. If you put it in a colder place in your kitchen, then it might slow down the rising process, so add just a very warm place. Once it rises for about 10 minutes, you're going to go ahead and add 4 cups of all-purpose flour. Once it looks a little something like this, it may be a little bit lumpy and sticky, but that's exactly what we're looking for. You're going to cover it with plastic wrap and let it rise. I am going to move mine into a bigger bowl. That way it has plenty of room to rise. Mine's all ready to rise, but when you're making sure that yours are ready to rise, make sure that you get a big enough bowl because it will about double or maybe even triple in size. And you want to make this rise in a warm place for about an hour or until it's super fluffy. While that rises, let's make our cinnamon filling, I guess. So we're going to start by adding 2 cups of butter. Make sure your butter is super soft. 2 cups of brown sugar and 6 teaspoons of cinnamon. Then you can just mix that up until it's nice and smooth. Now our dough should be nice and fluffy, and a couple of tips that I picked up when I did this recipe was sometimes it might take more than an hour, and if it's too cold in the house, try a sunny spot outside. So now we're gonna go ahead and add in 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 2 teaspoons of salt. Then you can go ahead and just mix that all up. Once you've mixed it together mostly, you can go ahead and transfer that to your counter to begin kneading. You're going to need to knead this for about 10 minutes. Once you get this nice and smooth, it's time to get ready to add the cinnamon. So I'm going to start spreading it out. You're going to want your dough to be in a big rectangle shape, and a tool that might help with that is a bench scraper. I don't have a bench scraper, but I do have this. It's basically like a mini one. So I'm going to be using the flat edge to straighten it out. Once you're happy with the shape of your dough, you're going to go ahead and get your cinnamon mixture from earlier and put spoonfuls all around the dough. It makes it a lot easier to spread out when you spread out where you put spoonfuls of the filling. If you don't like a lot of cinnamon in your cinnamon rolls, I would suggest halving the amount of cinnamon filling that you make. Once you've spread the filling evenly across the whole entire sheet of dough, you're going to begin rolling the cinnamon rolls. I would suggest rolling from this side toward you. That way, it'll be easy to cut later. Make sure that you go nice and slow and steady. That way, they really keep their shape and they look like cinnamon rolls. Just before we begin cutting, we need to butter our pan. So I'm going to use a butter wrapper from earlier. Just rub it all across. And boom, do that to the whole pan. Make sure it's nicely buttered so that they really, there's no way that they'd stick. Now it's time to cut our cinnamon rolls, and instead of using a knife, I'm going to use a piece of dental floss to cut it. So first I'm going to cut off these little ends here, the little tails that it has. So you're going to put it under, squeeze. And that's what it should look like inside. And then of course this is the edge piece. And you can do that to the rest. Of the cinnamon rolls. These are good to be stored in the freezer for up to 3 months, so you don't have to make them right away. And just in case you don't understand how to do it with the dental floss, you're going to lift it up and put the dental floss under. And then you take the dental floss, cross it that way. This one's gonna go this way. And then when you pull it, make sure you have a good grip on it, pull it. There you go. It's cut into a perfect cinnamon roll. Once you've cut them, made sure that there's enough space between them, and covered them with plastic wrap, you're going to let these proof for about 35 to 45 minutes, just before they go into the oven, so that they'll be nice and fluffy. Once you've let them proof and they grew about half the size that they already were, you're going to go ahead and put these in the oven at 350 for 25 to 30 minutes. The final step to finish off our cinnamon rolls after they've cooled completely is to pour your icing all over. You can also just add them on your own if you want to serve them individually. And that's how you make homemade cinnamon rolls.